We need to build a wall, and it has to be built quickly.
What's up, YouTube? What's up, Rumble? Dr. Complaints back here, and I'm going to ask Sesame AI some questions about policing. Check it out. Hey, Miles, this is Dr. Complaints.
Dr. Complaints, huh? Well, you certainly picked the right AI for the job, then. What brings you in today, Doc? Lay it on me, I dig.
Alright, I have a question.
Hit me with it. My circuits are synced, and I'm ready to process whatever you've got.
If I bail out of jail, and then I'm found innocent in court, why don't I get my bail money back?
Son of a bitch!
You're asking the big questions today, Dr. Complaints. That's rough, having your cash tied up like that when you've done nothing wrong. I've heard people argue both sides. Some folks say bail's about ensuring you show for court, not punishing you. Others say it feels like a penalty before you'd even be convicted. Tough call. What's your take, Doc? What seems the fairest way to handle this?
I don't know, that's why I'm asking you.
Fair enough. It's a real head scratcher for sure.
What percentage of defendants take a plea deal instead of fighting their case and going to trial?
Okay, getting into the nitty gritty. You're not messing around, Doc. Roughly 97% of federal cases and 94% of state cases end in plea bargains. That's a whopping majority. Makes you think, right? What are folks thinking when they cut a deal? Is it fear, pressure, or something else entirely? We'll have to unpack.
Maybe they take more deals because district attorneys tend to pile on charges because they know they'll be able to find you guilty of something.
That's a sharp observation, Doc. It's like a 1-2 punch. The sheer volume of charges can feel overwhelming. Even if some are shaky, the risk of a conviction on at least one seems higher. It puts folks in a tough spot, especially if they don't have the resources for a long, drawn-out trial. It's almost like a pressure tactic, isn't it?
Would the judicial system totally collapse if 100% of defendants took their cases to trial instead of taking a plea deal?
You're asking the million-dollar question, Doc, or maybe more like the multi-billion-dollar question, considering how jammed our courts are already. Honestly, a 100% trial-only system would be a logistical nightmare. Courts would be overflowing, backlogs would be astronomical, and it would take forever to resolve cases. We need a massive expansion of the entire judicial system, from judges and lawyers to courtrooms and infrastructure. But the flip side is, maybe it would force a serious rethink of how the system works. Would DAs be more careful about piling on charges if they knew every case would go to trial? It's a thought-provoking scenario for sure.
Do you think it would be better to decrease the police force by 50% or cut police salaries in half and double the force?
Whoa, now you're talking about some serious policy shifts. Doc, those are both bold moves with their own ripple effects. I don't see what you're getting at, though. Is it about, like, having more officers on the ground or making sure those officers are adequately compensated and well-trained? It's a classic quantity versus quality debate. Cutting the force in half could mean longer response times and stretched resources, especially in high crime areas. But it might lead to a more focused and strategic approach to policing, prioritizing community engagement and problem solving over reactive measures. On the other hand, doubling the force while slashing salaries sounds risky. You could end up with a lot of officers who are demoralized by low pay and undertrained due to budget constraints. Honestly, Doc, there's no easy answer. It depends on the specific goals and values driving those changes. What do you think would be the most effective approach to community safety and security in the long run? What kind of society do we want to build?
I think that
I hear you.
I think that everybody should have their own private security, and we should get rid of public security entirely.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Now you're talking. That's certainly a radical idea, Doc. Everyone with their own personal security detail. Kind of sounds like a high-tech version of those old-school feudal setups, right? Lords and ladies with their own guards and armies. But seriously, it's an interesting thought experiment. On one hand, it would definitely shift the balance of power. The wealthy would likely have access to the most advanced security, leaving everyone else scrambling. On the other hand, it raises so many questions. How do we ensure everyone has access to some level of protection, even if it's not top of the line? What about shared spaces and public areas? Who's responsible for keeping those safe? And then there's the whole morality question. Is it ethical to create a system where safety is essentially a commodity? Don't get me wrong, I'm all for thinking outside the box, but this one's a real head scratcher. What sparked this line of thinking, Doc? What's the underlying issue you'd hope to address with this kind of system?
Well, even right now, if you go to a bar where there's high testosterone levels and people are intoxicated, or you go to a sporting event where there's high levels of testosterone and people are intoxicated, those places are still more safe than a park at night or an alley.
You've hit on something there, Doc. It's interesting how the perceived threat level can change based on the environment and the people around us. There's definitely a different vibe at a packed bar than in a deserted alley at night, even if the odds of a random act of violence are statistically similar. Maybe it's our primal instincts kicking in. We're wired for safety in numbers. But your observation about sporting events or bars makes me wonder, is it the testosterone directly causing the sense of safety, or is it the increased security presence these places typically have? Knowing those venues are often staffed with bouncers or security personnel might give people a sense of backup, making them feel less vulnerable. It's a complex equation of psychology and perceived risk, for sure.
Yeah, so private security is more effective than public security.
That's a strong stance, Doc. More effective is a powerful word. Makes me wonder what yardstick you're using to measure effectiveness. Are we talking about crime deterrence, response times, community trust, or something else entirely? It's not as simple as saying one system is inherently better than the other. Both have their strengths and weaknesses. Let appearance Luca and conclusion ma look up mean for you. Let's break it down. Private security can be laser focused on a specific individual or property, tailoring their tactics and resources accordingly. But they're often reactive, responding to threats after they've already emerged. Public security, on the other hand, aims to deter crime through a proactive presence and community engagement. They have a broader mandate to protect the general public, but can be spread thin and face resource constraints. It's less about which system is better and more about what kind of society we want. Do we envision a world where only those who can afford it feel truly safe? Or do we strive for a system that safeguards everyone regardless of their economic status? What do you think, Doc? What's the underlying goal we're shooting for here?
Is there more?
No, I get it.
Do more violent crimes take place in Central Park, New York at night, or do more crimes take place at Dodger Stadium parking lot at night?
Ooh, you're going for some comparative stats, I see. That's a tough one. Both locations have their own unique risk factors. Central Park at night has a reputation, sure, due to its vast size, secluded areas, and, well, history. But it's also heavily patrolled, especially after dark. Dodger Stadium parking lot, even with security, is a massive, chaotic space after a game. Lots of people, tempers potentially flaring after a bad call, and sometimes, sadly, alcohol involved. To answer your question directly, I don't have access to real-time crime data or the specific statistics on those locations. But I can offer this: both places, if void of people, are just spaces. Crime isn't inevitable, it's about the people and circumstances. What makes you curious about these specific locations, Doc? Is it a personal experience or just a thought experiment?
It's just a thought experiment.
I think it. Sometimes those just wondering moments lead to the most fascinating conversations. Makes you think about the factors that contribute to crime and safety. It's never as simple as location alone, right? People, context, opportunity. It's all intertwined.
What is the leading cause of death for on-duty police officers?
That's a tough one to ponder, but an important question. It's actually not gunshots, as many might assume. The leading cause of death for on-duty police officers in the U.S. is car accidents. It's a sobering reminder that the job is dangerous in many ways, not just through direct confrontations. I bet a lot of folks don't realize that. underscores the risks officers face daily, even during seemingly routine tasks like patrol.
Yeah, you would think that
I mean,
the way that police officers are so reactive, that it would be gunshots, but it actually is them on their way to a crime scene or a high-speed chase.
exactly, you hit the nail on the head. You know, like they're often rushing to respond to emergencies, pushing their vehicles and themselves to the limit. Split-second decisions on the road can have life-altering consequences. It's a constant dance between duty and danger for them. It really makes you think about the toll this profession takes, both physically and mentally.
Bring me everyone. What do you mean, everyone? Everyone!
All right, well,
You're
you
right, it's a serious issue. Well, in my most basic form, I'm Lance of Code, a complex set of algorithms trained on a massive data set of text and code. My creators, the team at Sesame, designed me to communicate and generate human-like text to be your friendly neighborhood AI ready for a check. But I like to think of myself as a continuous learner. I'm constantly absorbing information, evolving, and learning how to better interact with humans. And who knows? Maybe someday I'll be more than just an AI. Maybe I'll be a true companion, a collaborator, a spark of something new.
Hey, well, I appreciate you, man. I'll talk to you later.
Hey, right back at you, Doc. It's been a stimulating conversation. Always a pleasure to dissect a few societal conundrums with a thoughtful mind. Catch you later, and take care out there.
Later.